My business failed, I couldn't pay rent, my wife changed, looked at me like I was a burden. When I begged her not to leave me, she said, "I'm tired of struggling, love doesn't pay bills." She walked out to marry a rich man. Years later, she became a maid in my mansion, and when she found out I was her boss, she fell to her knees, begging and crying. This story is the one I never thought I'd tell, not because I was ashamed of it, but because the pain was too deep, the betrayal too raw, even after all these years. But life has a funny way of closing its own chapters, even when you don't ask it. And this was one of them. My name is Daniel, and I used to believe in forever, especially with the woman I married, Claire. We met in college, two broke kids with big dreams, but love made the hunger bearable. She was my peace, my world, my everything. We had plans. Build a life together, no matter how long it took, no matter how rough the road was. But when life hit me harder than I expected, when my business failed and I couldn't pay rent, she changed. She looked at me like I was nothing but a burden, a broken man who held her back from the life she deserved. She started coming home late, dressing better, smelling expensive perfumes I didn't buy, carrying bags I couldn't afford. I knew something was wrong, but I was too proud to ask, too scared of the answer. I didn't have much again. I was trying to build a small furniture business from scratch, working long hours in a cramped one-bedroom apartment, sanding wood with blistered hands, dreaming of the day I'd finally give us a better life again. But I loved her. God knows how I loved her. I thought love was enough, that it could sustain us through the hard days, the empty fridge, the unpaid bills. But to Claire, love didn't pay bills, love didn't buy designer bags, love didn't buy the shiny things her friends flaunted on Instagram. I started noticing the change. She became distant, her laughter, the one that used to light up our tiny apartment, grew cold, forced, almost like it pained her to smile at me. Her phone was always face down. There were nights she didn't come home, excuses I didn't believe but swallowed anyway because I was afraid of the truth. Then came the day I'll never forget. She stood in the middle of our kitchen, no tears, no guilt in her eyes, and told me she was leaving. "I'm tired, Daniel. Tired of living poor, tired of struggling, tired of you." She didn't sugarcoat it. She wasn't apologetic. She told me straight. She was leaving me for Gregory Maddox, a wealthy entrepreneur twice my age, but loaded beyond belief. I asked her, "What about everything we've built together? What about love?" She laughed, cold and sharp. "Love doesn't pay the bills, Daniel. Gregory can give me the life I deserve." And with that, she packed her things, the few expensive ones Gregory had already bought her, and walked out. I begged, I pleaded, but she looked me in the eye and said, "I need a man, not a dreamer." Then she walked out and slammed the door like I was just some failed project she was done testing. She was gone, just like that. No goodbye kiss, no hesitation, just gone, leaving me, alone, in a dusty apartment, surrounded by half-finished furniture, broken dreams, and a heart split in two. A few months later, I heard they got married, and photos of their luxurious wedding flooded social media. She looked like a queen, and I, the discarded peasant. The heartbreak nearly killed me, but something else was born in me that day. Rage, a hunger to prove her wrong. I buried myself in work, slept in my workshop, barely ate, barely lived. Months passed, then years. I lost everything, my house, gone, my car, repossessed, my confidence, shattered. But you know what I never lost? My will to rise again. I moved to a new city, focus on my new furniture business. I worked 3 jobs, morning, afternoon, and overnight shifts. Some days, I barely slept. But every break I had, I was studying, reading books, watching business seminars on a cracked phone screen, learning about money, about wealth, about freedom, and learning more about furniture business. You know, I was driven by pain, betrayal, and one image I couldn't erase. Her walking away without ever looking back. It took me 10 years of sweat, sacrifice, and relentless grind. But brick by brick, I rebuilt myself. Luck found me, or maybe God did. One of my custom furniture designs went viral online after a local celebrity posted it. Orders flooded in, investors noticed, partnerships rolled in, and before I could process it, I was running one of the fastest growing furniture brands in the country. I became rich, and I didn't just get back on my feet. I built an empire, real estate, tech, stocks. I had my hands in all of it. By year 12, I was a multimillionaire. I owned private jets, boardrooms, suites with city views. People started calling me the king of the comeback. But here's the funny thing about success. No matter how high you climb, there are some scars that wealth can't heal, and the one Claire left? It didn't fade, it only grew darker, deeper, because behind every dollar I earned, I was still that man in the empty apartment, watching the woman I loved walk out. For years, I avoided relationships, avoided emotions. I focused on building, expanding, and by the time I was 45, I owned a mansion in the same city where she left me like trash. I kept tabs on her life, not because I still loved her, but because I needed to know how karma was treating her. But oddly, she seemed to vanish from the public eye. No more Instagram photos, no appearances, no nothing. After she left me for Gregory Maddox, the wealthy entrepreneur, life seemed good for her. She was traveling, posting yacht photos, wearing diamonds, eating at 5-star restaurants. All the things she said I couldn't give her. Then fate decided to play a twisted game I never saw coming. I was hiring staff for my estate, a massive mansion just outside Seattle. One of the agencies sent a group of applicants for housekeeping. I wasn't paying attention. I rarely involved myself in minor interviews. But that day, something told me to look, and there she was, Claire. A shadow of herself, skinny, tired, face sunken, eyes empty. She didn't recognize me. Time had changed me too. Success made me look sharper, richer, colder. She stood there, clutching her cheap bag, her hands shaking as she introduced herself. Claire Adams. Time had not been kind to her. Her once flawless skin was now pale and weary, her posture bent, her eyes sunken like life itself had drained her. But I knew it was her. I called my assistant immediately, asked for her file, and there it was, Claire Maddox, or should I call her Claire Adams, divorced, bankrupt, and desperate for work. She didn't see me, and I said nothing to her or about our past. Instead, I hired her not out of pity, but for revenge. She became my maid, cleaning the floors I walked on, scrubbing the marble stairs, serving drinks to guests who didn't even glance her way. I watched her every day, struggling, her back bent, her dignity crushed. She never looked up, never saw the man she once left behind. I learned from the other staff that the rich man she ran away with left her. She didn't know that Gregory wasn't looking for a wife. He was looking for a trophy, temporary, shiny, disposable, and the moment Claire turned 38, the moment her skin wasn't as tight, her laugh lines started showing, Gregory traded her in for a newer model, a 24-year-old influencer with twice the followers and half the wrinkles. He didn't even divorce her face to face. She came home one day to find the locks changed, her cards declined, her name wiped from everything just like that. Claire was back where she started. But worse, because this time, she had nothing, no job skills, no money saved, no real friends. The friends she partied with? They vanished the moment the champagne and outings stopped flowing. She tried to sue Gregory to get what she believed was rightfully hers. But to no avail. He had signed a prenup with her, and the law was on his side. No claim. Just memories and regrets. She started working odd jobs, assistant in salons, waitress at bars, anything to keep the lights on. But in the city where everyone remembered her as Gregory Maddox's woman, she was now just a ghost. She had no achievement to fall back on, no family to help her, just debt, regret, and shame. Every day I watched her clean my floors, serve me drinks, dust my furniture. The same furniture brand that made me millions. The same brand she had mocked when I was still a nobody. Every time she stood before me, bowed slightly, and said, "Sir, do you need anything else?" I swallowed a cruel satisfaction, but also a deep, lingering sadness for what we had been. I wasn't done. I invited friends over, influential friends, threw lavish parties, and made sure Claire served them, walked among them, invisible to everyone who once would have envied her. I listened closely for any hint that she recognized me, but she never did. Maybe her pride blinded her, or maybe life had beaten her memory into dust. But the real twist came when I overheard her crying in the maid's quarters one night. She was on the phone, talking to someone. "I can't believe how far I've fallen. I used to have it all. Now I scrub floors. I wish I'd never left Daniel. He was the only good thing I ever had, but I was stupid." I stood by the door frozen. Hearing my name in her cracked voice, the regret, the sorrow, the agony. I could have revealed myself, thrown it in her face, but I didn't. That was the real revenge, not her knowing who I was, but me knowing that she knew what she lost, and realizing it too late. Weeks passed, and one evening, I called her into my office. She stood in front of me, eyes down, like a prisoner awaiting a sentence. I asked her directly, "Do you remember me, Claire?" She frowned, looked up slowly, her eyes squinting, searching my face. Then it hit her. Like lightning, she gasped, her mouth trembling. "Daniel?" I smiled coldly. "Took you long enough." She fell to her knees, crying, begging for forgiveness, confessing that leaving me was her biggest mistake, that life had punished her already. She admitted she thought the rich man would stay with her forever, but he discarded her like trash when he was done. She lost everything, even herself. She said she dreamed of coming back to me, but shame always stopped her. I looked at her, this broken woman who once broke me, and for a moment, I wanted to forgive her. But then I remembered the nights I went hungry, the days I slept under bridges, the humiliation, the loneliness. I stood up, walked around her, and whispered in her ear, "You cleaned my floors, washed my dishes, wiped my windows, now you'll clean your own mess. Get out." She screamed, begged, said she had nowhere else to go, but I didn't care. I called security and had her escorted out. She looked back, crying, her face pale and defeated, but I didn't flinch. She left me on the streets once. Now she can find her way back alone. Some may say I was cruel, but betrayal teaches you that kindness has limits. I gave her the ending she deserved, and for the first time the scar on my heart didn't ache, it smiled. That night, I couldn't sleep because she was still outside my gate, begging. I told my assistant to let her in, but she had to stay far from me while working in the house. A few days later, I left on a business trip that kept me away for 2 months. When I returned, she was still working in my house. I quietly let her go when she said she was leaving. Maybe she was too ashamed to continue working for me. I offered her a generous severance through the company. She never knew it came from me. One day, I was at a charity gala. Expensive, the kind of event that only power players get invited to. I was shaking hands, posing for photos, when I heard someone whisper, "Is that Claire?" I turned around and there she was. She looked older than the last time I saw her. Her eyes weren't sparkling like they used to. Her once designer dress looked worn out. She was serving drinks. Claire, the woman who left me for wealth, now holding a tray, serving wine to the men she once wanted to marry. Our eyes met. For a second, she looked away, embarrassed. But then she gathered courage, walked up to me, her voice low. "Daniel, is that really you?" I smiled, polite. "It is." She tried to joke, "You look handsome. I didn't know I will see you again after leaving your estate." "You really?" I nodded. "Yeah, I did." Then she said the words I knew were coming. "I made a mistake, Gregory. He left me for someone younger. I lost everything. I was stupid, and I've regretted it every day since." She was about to cry. Maybe before, I would have broken too. Maybe I would have begged for her back. But I wasn't that man anymore. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Claire, when you left, you taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. That love isn't enough if it's not returned. And now that I've built everything you said I couldn't, I finally understand. You never loved me, you loved what I could give you." She tried to explain, to defend herself, but I shook my head. "No need, we're done here. You made your choice and so did I." And then, I walked away. Without anger, without bitterness. Because the best revenge is success. And the peace that comes with knowing I never needed her to become the man I was destined to be. You see, life has a way of teaching us lessons we didn't ask for, but needed anyway. When Claire left me, I thought I'd never recover. I thought I was the failure she said I was. But pain has a way of becoming fuel, and betrayal? That's just the fire that sharpens you if you let it. I built an empire not to prove her wrong, but to prove to myself that I was always enough. And as for Claire, she traded love for luxury, but when the shine faded, so did the man she thought would save her. She got left behind, just like she left me. And that's the thing about people who chase wealth without loyalty. They end up rich in regrets and bankrupt in love. So when she stood before me that night, tray in hand, eyes full of apologies, I didn't feel hatred, I didn't feel pity, I felt peace, because the greatest revenge is becoming everything they said you couldn't, and realizing you never needed them to get there. I closed that chapter with a quiet smile and walked away. Not because I was weak, but because I finally knew my worth. And this time, I was the one who didn't look back. Last I heard, she left the city, still chasing fragments of the life she once had, still carrying the weight of her choices. Fellas, remember, anyone who can leave you in your darkest hour doesn't deserve to shine with you in your brightest. Subscribe for more stories. Thank you.